Greetings, my curious motion compadres. This is that legendary Q&A video, and boy do I have some A's for your Q's. First up, we've got some complex questions about that powerhouse of a program known as Cinema 4D, starting with how to create a sphere. Greetings, my globular motion graphicians. Here's a small tutorial within the video that you're watching. And I'm going to show you how to create this wonderful round sphere. So the first step is to click this button. So, thank you for your time, and until next time, stay in motion. Alright, so next question. What is Cinema 4D most used for? Well, its main strength and what it's really famous for is the 3D motion graphic design. But it's not uncommon to see visual effects done in Cinema 4D or character animation, because it is a very good all-round program as well. Apparently the great render wars are still raging on, because a lot of people want to know which render engine I'm using. Some of you know it's Arnold, and other people just want to know why is it Arnold and not Redshift or Octane. There's a couple of reasons for that, and the main one actually is just the fact that Arnold exists. Unlike the mission Solid Angle has to make the renderer as physically accurate as possible, they managed to balance that really well with also giving a lot of artistic control, so you can art direct the renders and do things that would otherwise be impossible. And the other reason is that I work on a Mac laptop, so I don't really get that speed boost from GPU rendering. Plus, Solid Angle are working on developing the Arnold GPU/CPU dual renderer thing, and once they're out with that, I'm gonna get the best of both worlds anyway. So, question, what plugins do you use in Cinema 4D, or essential plugins that you wish you knew starting out? I actually don't use many plugins at all, but I do have a few essential ones that I would prefer not to live without. First of all, there is, of course, Arnold. Don't know if that counts as a plugin, but it's under the plugins menu, so there you go. And I do like me some smoke and fire, and for that I use Turbulence FD. And if I want some particles with that, I open up the trusty old X particles. I've also occasionally used something called Forester, which creates trees and foliage. And finally, I've got my RealFlow Connect, which isn't really a plugin in its own, it's just if I want to import some simulations I've done in RealFlow. And speaking of Cinema 4D plugins, I had a couple of questions about the plugin that I was developing, which is absolutely 100% real and legitimate, called Beepo. First question is, what the fuck? Beepo doesn't mean anything in Spanish. Puedo decir eso porque hablo español desde que soy niño. Let me stop you right there. I'm pretty sure I know El Spanish quite well myself. You see, El, of course, in Spanish, as we all know, means Mr. And Beepo simply means daily. So put together, El Beepo means Mr. Daily. Also the question about if the plugin was going to be paid or free, and it's going to be paid, but I will only be accepting
human sacrifice.
Alright, next one. Rashmi was really keen on finding out how big my pickle is. I actually don't have any pickles right now, but that can be easily fixed. That looks like about 55 millimeters. Here's a fellow tutorman who wants to know a bit about my narration style and how I do voiceovers. I used to record them all separately, so I first did a screen recording with a placeholder voiceover and then edited that and recorded the voiceover afterwards. But now I've been practicing, so for the tutorial on how to add ripples to anything in Cinema 4D, I actually recorded the voiceover while I was doing the screen recording, which in the end is a lot quicker for me to edit. So if no one heard a difference, I guess that works just as well. Any other tips that I might have is just think before you speak, but don't think too hard because then it makes it harder to speak. And when you do speak, make sure you speak quite close to the mic. Here's an Englishman who finds my accent/voice really appealing, and he wants to know if I'm like English and Swedish or something. First of all, thank you, and you are quite correct. This is where I'm from. Jag kom från Norrland, jag vet du. But then I moved over to England and watched a lot of QI. So now this is my accent. Quite a few people actually wanted to know how I got into motion design in the first place and where I learned how to design all that motion. So I guess it's only fair to tell you.
Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how I became the
motion designer
of a town called
England. I never went to any form of university. I mostly just slipped into motion design and found out that it actually combines a lot of my interests. I just started out by making amazing short films with friends and did some crude VFX in Final Cut Pro. And then on a fateful December weekend when I had the flu, I discovered the magic of After Effects. Thanks to some guy, I think he was called
Hey, what's up? Andrew Kramer here, videocopilot.net.
And from there it just went straight downhill. The short films just got more and better VFX, and I realized I had to start doing some of them in 3D. That's where Cinema 4D came into the picture. And I also realized that I couldn't simply just not do a short film and just spend all of my time in Cinema 4D. And then I was lucky enough to run into David Sandberg.
Kung Fury.
And he was like the coolest guy I knew. He called himself a motion designer. So at that point I knew that that's what I wanted to be too. So I did an internship with David for a good stretch of time, and the year was now 2011. That was the same year I won the coveted CG Wiz Award by Escape Studios. And I just put me on a plane straight to London to Escape Studios for a 12-week intense visual effects production course. And that also got me my first industry job, an internship at The Mill in London. Since then, I have been making non-stop motion. Phew, so that was my life story. Now, will you be my daddy? I've been giving this a lot of serious thought. I even looked into potential adoption. But I just feel like it's too much responsibility too quickly. I've already got a lot on my plate, and I think fatherhood on top of that just wouldn't be a good idea. So I think we'll just have to wait until we're both ready. I probably have the most questions about the course, which makes me happy, but before we get into that, here's a couple of questions about working in motion. The first one is about agency versus freelancing, and that depends on what you mean by agency and what you mean by freelancing. First, agency can mean either working full-time in a creative agency, or it can mean working through an agency that gets work for you either in other studios or directly with clients. And freelancing can also mean a couple of different things. Here in the UK, it almost exclusively refers to working as a self-employed motion designer in-house in other companies on short contracts. But in the US, I think the term freelancer also includes working more directly with clients. Either way, I do all of the above. I'm not full-time anywhere, but sometimes I jump in as a freelancer in motion design studios and creative agencies. But anytime there's a client that comes to me and wants me to do a motion design job for them, I am more than happy to do that. Elena wants to know if I work primarily in broadcast or only freelancing. And once again, the answer is all of the above. When I work in-house as a freelancer somewhere, it tends to be more broadcast, and when I work directly with clients, it tends to be less broadcast. Okay, now let's get into that course. I'm going to start with a question that's probably been keeping all of you up at night. What is the name of this course? Well, let me tell you. The name of this course is quite simply The Process of Motion. That is a very accurate name, because the course is all about, well, the process of making motion design. So who is this course really for then? Is it a course for the noobs or for the elites? And that is a good question. I would say it could be for either one. It would be good for someone fresh out of uni who just wants to learn more about the industry and how work gets produced in agencies and studios. But it would be fucking great for someone who's got some experience and some skills on the buttons and now wants to learn how to work directly with clients and take on whole projects from start to finish. But theoretically, you don't need to know anything about Cinema 4D or even After Effects to get something out of the course, because there's no real focus on software. Because the focus is fully on the process. So there's a lot about creativity and working with clients and dealing with feedback. Although since I am a fan of both Cinema 4D and After Effects, there is a version of the course which is going to have a lot of that goodness in it. So, is this course going to be in person somewhere, or is it going to be online, and where is it going to be? This course is going to take place on the World Wide Web. It's going to be hosted on a platform called Teachable, so it doesn't matter where in the world you are, you can still get access to the course. But how long is the whole shebang going to be? Right, so the course is split up into two different parts. Part 1 is purely lectures with lots of high intensity learning. You learn everything there is to know about how motion gets made. And then in part 2 you get to see all of that in action. We follow a real life client project all the way from start to finish. Part 1 is pretty much already done. All of those lectures are written, recorded, edited and more or less rendered. And they are currently sitting at a grand total of 156 minutes. So that's just over 2.5 hours. For part 2, however, I can't really say exactly how long that's going to be, because that real-life project is still in progress. But what I can tell you is that it's the biggest project I have ever worked on. So it's going to take some time to get done, and I'm expecting those breakdowns to be quite a bit longer than the lectures. But I am doing what I can to make sure the whole course is as short and sweet as possible. And that project also means I can't give an exact release date just yet, but it's looking likely that it will all be done in September. So that then brings us to the question of price. Will the course be quote-unquote affordable? And I can say yes, the course will be quote-unquote affordable. While working on the course, I've always been telling myself that I'm going to make this course incredibly expensive, because that way I keep my quality top notch. But of course I also want to make the course available to as many people as possible. So I'm working on 3 different versions of the course. In the end, they're all going to contain the same basic knowledge, but the top 2 tiers are going to have that extra layer of sweet sauce on top. Right now they all cost within the range of £200 to £400, but that's not something that's set fully in stone yet. So if you think that's outrageously high or outrageously low, let me know that in the comments. Of course, I'm going to make sure that my people are taken care of, so when I launch the course, I'm going to launch it first exclusively for my subscribers at a far lower price before opening it up to the public. Now, if this course sounds like something you could benefit from, but you don't think you're going to have the money to splash out on it, there is a way you can get it for freebies, so hang on to your kidneys. But it does mean doing a little something for me too, because I am looking for beta testers. I need people who can go through the course and look for any mistakes or glitches and just overall give me their opinion. At the end of it all beta testers are going to get the top version of the course for freebies. So if that sounds like something you'd like, send an email to with the subject line beta please, and just tell me a bit about who you are and what you're currently doing if you're working or studying, what you would like to learn from the course, and what you're hoping to be doing in the future. Alright, so that's it for all the questions about the course. If you have any other questions, you can usually hit me up on Twitter, where I think I'm the most responsive, or you could just drop another comment down here. Now before I go, of course I can't do a video without doing a little bit of a tut, so I've saved this question for the end. Was the glitching effect made in After Effects? And he's talking about the glitching on our buddy Dave here, and yes, that was indeed made in After Effects. Now, there's already about 1001 different glitch tutorials for After Effects on YouTube, but how much could another one hurt? Here we are in After Effects with a familiar face. It's our buddy Dave, still rippling on like nothing ever happened. Now, let's start by adding some glitch up in this bitch. Let's create a new layer first. Command Y, make it. Yeah, I'll pre-compose that layer into something called a glitch comp. And then on this single pale orange solid, apparently, I'm going to add the classic noise and grain effect, fractal noise. Right now, this is a bit too soft. I'm going to change the noise type from soft linear to block. And immediately we have something that looks a little bit more like a glitch pattern. It's pretty good, but I want to change the transformation so it is not uniform and it's a bit wider than it is high. And I'm going to scale down the sub settings so that the subscaling is a lot smaller. And continue to scale that up. Sub influence should be quite high, because this is going to be our basic noise. Let's make this move by alt-clicking the stopwatch for evolution. And in that expression field, we're going to enter time, multiplied with maybe 500. So that's going to move quite quickly. Now it's moving at that speed, which is good enough for the base. I'm going to duplicate this, set the new layer to multiply, and then just change the settings a bit for this layer. Sub settings, I'm going to set the sub influence to 0, and then I'm going to change the transform as well. Scale that well down. And also, I want to change the evolution options, because now I want a new random seed for this. So if we play it through now, this is what it looks like. It's a little bit glitchy, but it could be a lot glitchier. So I'm going to duplicate this layer and make that noise huge. I'm going to scale the width up to at least 2000 and the height to maybe 100. And now we've got that moving like this. I'm going to go through and also tweak the speed at some of these so they all move kind of differently. And for this big one, maybe set it either quite high or quite low. Yeah. Alright, so this is a bit too soft at the moment. So I'm going to duplicate this last layer here, change the mode to normal again, and turn that whole thing into a adjustment layer, and delete the fractal noise. Then I'll go to Effect, Color Correction, and Levels. And I'll just crush these levels right down. Make sure that there's only glitching happening in a few areas. So now this is what it looks like. I want the glitch to be even more limited than that, I think. So something like this. That's going to be quite a digital looking glitch. Right, perfect. I also want to add a simple tint effect to this, found under color correction again, tint, and change the black so it's just 50% gray. That's going to help for this next step. When we go back to Dave and just hide the glitch right underneath him. First thing I want to do is duplicate Dave 3 times. And to the top Dave, I'm going to add an effect from channel, which is Shift Channels. And now I'm going to do what I did in my chromatic aberration tutorial. I'm going to separate the channels, so there's one layer for each. I'll turn off all the channels except for red on this first one. Copy that effect to the next layer. Turn off red on that one, but set green back to green. And again do the same for the last layer here. Set blue to blue and green to full off. Now if I set these layers to either add, lighten or screen, I'm going to select add. Dave is back to his rippling self again. Now on this middle one, which is now our green channel, let me rename these R, G, and B. Previously I added the glitch effect to the green channel, and I see no reason why it should change now. So I'll go under Effect, under Distort, and get myself a nice old displacement map. And I'm going to set both the horizontal and vertical displacement to 0 actually, because I don't want any keyframes on this. So I'm going to Alt-click their stopwatches again, starting with horizontal, and add a wiggle expression to that. So wiggle, open parenthesis, and I'm going to set it to wiggle 20 times per second at a value of, say, 200 pixels. And now we already have quite an intense glitch. I'll do the same for the vertical displacement. Alt-click that stopwatch and enter wiggle. I'm going to have that wiggle faster, but a lot less. And we have this really intense glitch. All we need to do now is basically change the displacement map layer to our glitch layer. And that's more or less how I did my glitch. Now, if you want to control this and get either more or less glitching, all you need to do is change the top layer where you did the contrast and tweak the levels. You can animate the levels if you want to do a glitchy transition. Now I'm going to make something which has mostly only glitch, and that's going to look something like this. Of course, you can also add this displacement map to the other layers of Dave if you want really intense glitch. And they're all going to wiggle at different speeds, so it's going to be quite an intense look. So hopefully this is something you can have quite a bit of fun with. I'm going to add this file for download as well, so if you don't have 5 minutes to do it yourself, you can just click the download. So that is it for this Q&A/glitch tut video. Hope you had a good time, I know I did, and until next time, which shouldn't be too long hopefully, thank you for your time, and of course, as always, stay in motion with proper process.